Well, we're well into January now, and perhaps you set some goals for the new year. But what happens when you have to deal with setbacks? How do you cope? Ultra-endurance athlete Mandy Gill wrote a book about this. It is called Reset with Resilience. You can see it here. Mandy joins us in studio. Good morning, Mandy. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Courtney.
Congratulations. I know this is something you've worked very, very hard on for the last couple of years, but it's really about setbacks and how that can change your course. And it comes down to your mind frame and how you approach a setback, whether it be in your career or just in life.
Yes, massively. And that is, you know, when I looked at writing this book, I didn't want to write it just about goals. We've got so many books out there about goal setting. It comes down, and so many of us can admit, to what happens and what we do when things go sideways.
And so many of us have experienced that, and it's almost like it's a fork in the road, right?
Yes.
You come across someone, maybe it's feedback that you weren't expecting or just a challenge that you have to overcome, and you make that decision. And in this book, it's kind of a guide, but it's just almost reassuring that this is very normal.
It is, absolutely. And I think that these types of conversations are actually what is so important, is because oftentimes when we see a roadblock, what do? We divert, right? Yeah. We're like, oh, this goal wasn't meant for me to achieve, or this was standing in my way. 80% of the time, you are so close to achieving that goal. You're just missing that last 20%. And so for me, I'm like, this book, I want it to be that catalyst to allow you to get that extra 20% and hit that goal that we have no idea what that's now going to bring into your life, besides what I can imagine is a lot of greatness.
Yeah, and what's really great about your book is you're very honest about your story, and you kind of talk right at the beginning of the book about your story, and a bit of a difficult and upsetting experience for you when you were in broadcast school, and some feedback you received, and how that kind of was where you made that tough decision.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, because it's so hard to be vulnerable. And at the same time, when I talk about vulnerability, I mean, we have to use that in order to be a catalyst to get towards achieving our goals. So with the story that you're speaking about in particular, yeah, it was a very tough scenario where I was told, you know, you do not have a voice for broadcasting, for radio, all of those types of things. We're talking back in 2008. So, you know, what is that, 17 years ago now? And I'm so grateful for that piece of feedback, because I recognized in that moment it was literally a distraction on my path to achieving what my goal was, which was to literally be able to be here today. Obviously, I wouldn't have seen that at the time, but I knew that there was something greater for me. So I could have taken that gentleman's feedback and been like, yeah, no problem. I'm going to leave broadcasting school and go home and, you know, be back in Calgary with my family and do what's comfortable. But I decided that his feedback was literally a distraction, and that I could choose to go down that path or another one.
And you've had such a unique path. I mean, you're also talking in this book an opportunity to introduce Rihanna, like one of the biggest stars in the world. And this was something you prepared for a very long time, and then you ran into some technical issues there. Speak to how you kind of overcame that moment, and that kind of, again, brings you to where you are today.
You know, there's no other way to explain than being in front of 18,000 screaming fans, introducing Rihanna on stage. And you walk up on the stage and you go to say something in your microphone, and there's no sound.
We've all been there with the tech issues, but I can't imagine that scenario.
Yeah, it was a real tough one. And so, you know, that truthfully, the reason why the book is about resetting is exactly because of that example, right? That was a huge, massive setback. But how was I going to think on my feet? How was I going to recognize that I wasn't going to lean into failure or be afraid of this instant? And so, you know, it started getting people singing in the crowd, row by row. Everybody was singing Umbrella. And then all of a sudden, it was just like, I don't need a microphone. We're able to do this. So really, setbacks are going to happen. It doesn't matter if it's something as big as that or as little as, you know, getting through traffic, right? I got to be honest with you. I dropped my beautiful earring down the hotel room sink today, and I'm like, oh, that's a setback. But guess what? It happens. How do we get back onto track?
It's almost like you've trained your brain to think that way, too, when you continue to practice that way. And you hear that even with a gratitude practice, right? It becomes very natural to you when you continue to do something.
Yes. And that's actually one of the 4 steps at the end, coming back from a setback. I talk a lot about climbing in Nepal and in the Himalayas in the last chapter, and actually having a big failure out there at one of the biggest climbs that I was looking to do. And I used the word failure because I had to recognize there was moments of gratitude within that. And we can use that in order to get back on track.
You do so much. I mean, you've written this book. You're talking about all these incredible accomplishments that you have, especially when it comes to athleticism, and yet you have so much energy. What's next for you? What do you want to focus on?
Oh, you know, this book tour has been an absolute joy. I was saying to you just before we got on camera, I never expected this amount of incredible response, and to know that this can help people in their lives is a true catalyst. So I kind of left some space for that to happen.
Yeah.
And now I'm like,
Enjoy
I do
it.
actually want to get back in the mountains. So yeah,
Good
I'm
for you.
excited.
Well, congratulations, Mandy. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story and your advice in this book. I know it's available in most bookstores. So right here, Reset with Resilience. Mandy in studio with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you
We
for
wish you all the
having
best.
me.